morning. Would you please tell our listeners a little bit about your growing up in Lebanon as a young Christian?
Yes. I come from Lebanon, which used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we were multicultural. We prided ourselves on our multiculturalism. We had open border policy. We welcomed everyone into our country. Boy, does that sound familiar so far?
Yes, it certainly does.
Eerily familiar. So, we were good in business. Beirut became Paris of the Middle East, the banking capital of the Middle East. Unfortunately, all that began to change as the Muslims in the country became the majority because of their birth rate and because of the influx of the Palestinian refugees that came into the country who happened to be all Muslims. They put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon and declared war on the Christians. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975 when the Muslims blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble, wounded. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months and later ended up living in a bomb shelter underground in an 8x10 room without electricity, without water, and very little food, trying to survive. And that's where I lived for 7 years of my life, from the age of 10 till the age of 17, fighting to survive.
Now, you also talk about when you were speaking at Calvary Chapel there, you had a life-changing moment in an Israeli hospital. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. Since the war broke out when I was 10 years old, Israel was the only country in the world who actually paid attention to what was happening to the Christians of Lebanon. Unfortunately, no other Christian nations, including churches in the United States, really cared that much about how many Christians were being slaughtered in the Middle East. So the Israeli army came in to help our town. So since I was a 10-year-old child, I knew that Israel was our protector and our best friend. When I became 17 years old, 7 years later, after knowing and surviving under the protection of the Israelis, my mother became wounded, and we had to take her to an Israeli hospital for treatment. She was wounded by a Muslim shell exploding in front of our bomb shelter. And that's when I really saw the reality and the beauty of the Israeli culture. I knew they were my friends. I knew they were my protectors because I'm a Christian. But what shocked me when we got to the hospital is when we entered the emergency room, I saw hundreds of people wounded on the floor. They were Muslims brought in from Lebanon, Christians brought in from Lebanon, Israeli soldiers brought in from Lebanon who were wounded in Lebanon, Palestinian terrorists. And the doctors treated everyone according to their injury. They did not see political affiliation. They did not see religion. They saw people in need and they helped. The doctor actually treated my mother before he treated the Israeli soldier laying next to her. And I thought to myself, I can understand why they're helping me. I am their friend, I'm their ally, I'm their buffer zone. But why on earth were they helping the Palestinians and the Muslims who would literally slit their throat in 30 seconds if they have an opportunity to do so? And that's when I realized the true value of the Israeli people and their culture and how they raise their children and how desperately they want peace and love and compassion and friendship in the Middle East between them and their neighbors. I remember spending 22 life and made me realize that these Jewish people in that hospital had something even I did not have. They were able to love and forgive the Palestinians, their enemy, in a way to, and I was the Christian who was supposed to love like Jesus taught. I ended up moving to Israel, and 2 years later, in 1984, I'm becoming a news anchor for World News in the Middle East, covering world events. And that solidified my deep appreciation for the Israeli culture and made me realize that now, actually, the whole world is fighting what the Jews have been fighting for over 60 years. But as long as Jewish blood was being shed on the streets of Tel Aviv and Christian blood was being shed on the streets of Beirut, nobody in the world really gave a darn.
You have organized Act for America. Tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, as I began speaking after September 11th around the country and educating people about the threat of radical Islam to world peace and to our national security, I realized people always had the same question after I was done. Now that I am informed, what can I do? Give me something to do. And I found myself realizing that even though we can educate until the cows come home, education is important, but it is not sufficient. Education must be coupled with action. And in 2007, I launched Act for America. And Act for America today is the largest national security grassroots movement in the United States. We have 160,000 members, 510 chapters nationwide with a full-time lobbyist on Capitol Hill. What we do is not only educate people about the threat in their own community, but also mobilize citizens in their own community to come together, to form chapters together, to lobby their local elected officials, their school board, their local state legislators, so they can keep an eye on their community. And together forming a big organization, we are literally building the NRA of national security, because I realize the most important issue of the day, national security issue, did not have any organization representing it on Capitol Hill. So we are building the NRA of national security, and we are empowering people to realize that while you sit and watch television and get all frustrated all by yourself sitting in your family room thinking, am I the only one losing my mind right here, listening to our elected officials twist themselves into pretzels so they don't have to offend anybody or call radical Islam by its name or Islamic terrorists by their name. So what we're doing is we are empowering the individual to become a part of something much bigger than they are. Instead of being one voice screaming in the wilderness in New Bern, North Carolina, or in Fontana, California, we are bringing hundreds of thousands of people together to speak with a magnified one voice on Capitol Hill, represented by a lobbyist. And I urge people listening to this interview to go to our website, Act for America, sign up to get our emails, sign our petition. We have a petition on the website called Keep America Safe and Secure. We want to present this petition to the 112th Congress. It has 10 points about what we want them to do to make sure America is protected, America is preserved, our borders are secured, and how we can protect the nation together. So I urge people listening to this interview to please go to actforamerica.org.
Yes, and inform. You said information and educate. Many folks do not realize that Hamas in its charter has in America many groups on its list.
Yes, Hamas alone has cells operating in 30 cities in the United States. They have cells in 40 states in the United States. The state of Texas alone has Hezbollah operating and organized in it. They have 2,500 Hezbollah active members in Texas alone. Our problem in America is not only Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is nothing more than a base, and that's what it means in Arabic, Al-Qaeda, which means the base by which all same organizations and people that share the same ideology can launch that ideology from a strong foundation and a strong base. What America is failing to do and has failed to do is connect the dots and realize that what brings those organizations together is an ideology. If Al-Qaeda is wiped off the face of the map today, if we eliminate it completely, is that going to eliminate Hamas? Is that going to eliminate Hezbollah? Is that going to eliminate Lashkar-Taibi? Is that going to eliminate Al-Shabaab in Sudan? Is that going to eliminate Al-Jama'ah al-Islamiyya or the Muslim Brotherhood? Is that going to eliminate Hizb ut-Tahrir? What we need to realize is what Al-Qaeda is nothing more than a trans-umbrella organization with many different organizations that come underneath it, and that is the cancer we are fighting, and that's the cancer we need to understand. We need to understand the disease, we need to understand what causes it, and we need to understand how it spreads and at what level, what our opportunities are in order to defeat it before it spreads in the body of the world to a point where we can no longer defeat it.
So we really, we're just kind of blind until we're informed, and we appreciate that, you getting the word out and urging us to, to act. Well, we have just a few minutes left here, Ms. Gabriel. What do you think about the Muslim Brotherhood, or just what are your thoughts about what's currently happening over in the Middle East with Egypt and the surrounding countries?
Well, great question about the Muslim Brotherhood. In my latest book, They Must Be Stopped, I dedicate a chapter to the Muslim Brotherhood. And the title of the chapter is The Muslim Brotherhood Project for North America. They are here. The Muslim Brotherhood is so entrenched in the United States. They have 29 front Islamic organizations operating in America. And I'll give you one simple example. The MSA, the Muslim Student Association, which has chapters on college campuses. The MSA has more chapters on American college campuses than the Democrats and the Republicans combined. and you wonder how we're losing our universities, and you wonder how we're losing our future generation, and you wonder why we have a new generation of American youth who loathe America, who think America is evil, who apologize on behalf of America at every single opportunity they get, starting with our president right now, who's embarrassed of his own country. But as to what's happening in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood is the oldest Islamic terrorist organization in the world, with 70 offshoot Islamic organizations, including Al-Qaeda and Hamas. Right now, what is so concerning about Egypt is even the temporary military government just gave positions to the Muslim Brotherhood members to get into the cabinet. That is their foot in the door. I'm afraid within 10 years, we're going to see Egypt transformed into another Iran and a huge diehard enemy of the United States.
Israel surrounded by these folks.
Yes, Israel is surrounded by these folks, but, again, I mean, they have been growing, they have been, becoming more radicals as the years go by. The West really did not understand how organized the Islamic movement was around the world, especially since the launch of the Iranian Revolution in 1979. That birthed life into the radical Islamic movement worldwide. They look at Iran, they look at Iran's success, and they are saying, you know what, we need to go back to our Islamic roots. I mean, look at the two countries in the Middle East, whether Shiite like Iran or whether Sunni like Saudi Arabia. The most two successful countries in the Middle East are the most radical. So the radicals are using this example, the success of Iran and the pride and dignity and honor of Iran as well as Saudi Arabia, and telling their population as they recruit, listen, you want to get back the glory of Islam, you want to get back your respect around the world, you want to get back your dignity, you need to become more radicalized like these nations. That's the only way we're going to be able to defeat the West and establish an Islamic empire.
You go ahead and give out the website address again.
The website is actforamerica.org. And remember, we named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not wish for America, not hope for America, but act for America. For without action, if you are just listening to this interview without taking action, you're just being entertained. You might as well be watching Dancing with the Stars. So go to actforamerica.org and sign up today and become a voice affecting your community and our nation.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Gabriel, for being our guest on The Wind this morning, and may God bless you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.